The morning air felt heavier than usual that day. It was the kind of air that presses against your chest, not because of the weather, but because of what you are carrying inside. I remember standing near the window of my small apartment, holding a cup of coffee that had already gone cold, staring at the street below. People walked past with purpose. They laughed, talked on their phones, greeted each other without effort. Their words flowed so naturally, so easily, as if language itself was breathing through them, and there I was, silent. I had been learning English for a long time. Long enough to know the rules. Long enough to understand most conversations. Long enough to read books, watch movies, and even think in English sometimes. But speaking was different. Speaking felt like stepping onto a stage where everyone could see your mistakes, hear your hesitation, and judge your confidence before you even finished a sentence. That morning, I told myself something dangerous. I told myself maybe this was as far as I could go. Maybe English was something I would always understand but never truly own. The thought didn't come loudly. It came quietly, slipping into my mind like a shadow that didn't want to be noticed. I picked up my bag and left the apartment, locking the door behind me. The hallway echoed with my footsteps, each one matching the rhythm of doubt in my head. I was on my way to a small community center where people from different countries met to practice English conversation. I had gone there many times before. Sometimes I spoke. Sometimes I stayed quiet. That day, I wasn't sure why I was even going. On the bus, I sat near the window and watched the city move. Buildings passed by like unfinished thoughts. A group of teenagers laughed loudly behind me, their jokes flying so fast I couldn't catch every word. Instead of feeling inspired, I felt tired. Tired of trying. Tired of translating in my head. Tired of feeling brave one moment and small the next. I remember the first time I tried to speak English in public. My voice shook. My sentence came out wrong. Someone corrected me, not unkindly, but the damage was done. My face burned. From that day on, every conversation felt like walking on thin ice. The bus stopped, and I stepped off, my feet moving out of habit more than intention. The community center stood quietly at the corner of the street. Inside, I could already hear voices, a mix of accents and laughter. I paused at the door. My hand rested on the handle, but I didn't open it right away. A voice inside me whispered that I should turn around. That I should go home, sit in my safe silence, and accept that not everyone becomes confident. That voice sounded reasonable, comfortable, familiar. But another voice, smaller but stronger, reminded me why I started. It reminded me of dreams that once felt alive. Dreams of speaking freely, of telling stories, of being understood without fear. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. The room was warm and bright. Chairs were arranged in a loose circle. A few people looked up and smiled. One woman waved and said hello. Her voice was friendly, relaxed, like she had known me for years. I smiled back, but the word hello stayed stuck in my throat before finally escaping. Quieter than I wanted, I took a seat and listened as the conversation flowed. People talked about their week, their jobs, their families. Some spoke confidently. Some struggled. Some made mistakes and laughed at them. I noticed something important then. No one was perfect. No one sounded like a textbook. Everyone was simply trying, the instructor, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, asked a simple question. He asked us to share a moment when we felt like giving up on something important. The irony of the question hit me hard. My heart started beating faster. I looked down at my hands, hoping he wouldn't call on me, but he did. He said my name gently, not as a command, but as an invitation. For a moment, the room disappeared. All I could hear was my own breathing. My mind raced, searching for the right words, the right grammar, the perfect sentence. It found nothing. Silence stretched. I almost said I didn't want to share. I almost apologized and passed the turn to someone else. I almost gave up right there, in that chair, surrounded by people who were doing the very thing I feared. Then something unexpected happened. I stopped trying to be perfect. I opened my mouth and spoke, not from rules, but from feeling. The words came slowly, sometimes incorrectly, sometimes awkwardly. My sentences were not smooth. My accent was clear. But I kept going. I talked about that very day. I talked about standing by the window. About watching people speak freely. About feeling tired of being afraid. My voice shook, but it didn't disappear. I stumbled, but I didn't stop. No one interrupted me. No one corrected me. They listened. As I spoke, something inside me changed. The fear didn't vanish, but it loosened its grip. I realized that confidence wasn't about speaking perfectly. It was about speaking honestly. When I finished, the room was quiet for a moment. Then someone nodded. Another person smiled. The instructor thanked me for sharing. He said my story mattered, not because of how I said it, but because I said it. That sentence stayed with me. After the session ended, a few people came up to talk to me. They told me they felt the same way sometimes. They told me my story helped them feel less alone. We laughed about our mistakes. We shared small victories. The room that once felt intimidating now felt human. On my way home, the city looked different. Not because it had changed, but because I had. I still made mistakes when I spoke. I still searched for words. But the heavy feeling in my chest was lighter. I understood something important that day. Giving up doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like waiting for perfection before speaking. Sometimes it looks like believing you are not ready, even when you are. Confidence doesn't arrive all at once. It grows quietly, moment by moment, every time you choose to speak, even when your voice shakes. That night, I stood by the same window, but I didn't feel the same weight. I spoke to myself in English. Softly at first, then louder. I made mistakes. I smiled at them, because that day taught me that the moment you almost give up is often the moment right before something changes. And if you are listening to this story right now, feeling unsure, feeling stuck, feeling like your English will never be good enough, remember this. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Speak anyway. I share stories like this every day. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.